Before we begin this podcast, please be advised that the following episode contains language that some listeners may find offensive and inappropriate. The opinions expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not reflect the views of the podcast producers. Listener discretion is advised.
In this episode, we delve into the case of Brandon Pritchard, a man who found himself caught in a deadly situation, one that ultimately ended with a loss of life and over 15 years in prison. As we uncover the story behind his arrest, we gain a glimpse into the tragic events of that evening in March 2021. Charged with armed criminal action, first-degree burglary, and the voluntary manslaughter of a man by the name of Michael Utley, Brandon encountered the full force of the law. Labeled as a jealous ex-boyfriend out for revenge, Pritchard's true motivations remain clouded by the narrative spun in court and the media. We will explore his turbulent upbringing, the influence of drugs and alcohol, and how an evening walk with a friend led him into a fateful encounter. Join us as we uncover what truly happened in that house and how the justice system may have skewed the facts, casting a dark shadow over Brandon Pritchard. This is Voices of a Killer.
So, Brandon, are you from Missouri?
Yeah.
Born and raised?
Pretty much grew up in Kansas City, Missouri.
So, from the city, Kansas City. What's it like growing up in Kansas City?
Well, it's pretty rough. I mean, most of the neighborhoods I was in was pretty rough at all, a lot of the times.
Did you consider yourself poor growing up?
Yeah.
What'd your mom and dad do?
Well, we had, my mom worked a lot of different jobs, and she tried to raise, me and two of my brothers by herself most of the time.
Where was dad at?
Well, all three of our dads wasn't around. None of them were around. We just had stepdads until, about 11 or 12. And then we had a stepdad that kind of stuck around for the middle half of our lives out. He was there for a long time. But growing up to, around that age, there wasn't really nobody around, just people that she drank with. And,
Was there drugs in the house growing up?
Yeah, drugs and alcohol. She drank a lot, and that's basically all the people that she had around her. So.
Yeah. How was your schooling and all that? Did you do good, or did home life affect you?
Well, I did, but it was a lot of moving around. We moved to the country because we've got family down there and moved around in the city a lot. Like I said, Kansas City mostly, but I've got a lot of aunts and stuff in the country, and we moved back and forth, and, so.
Where in the country?
Fairplay, Bolivar. We had some aunts that lived down there. Pleasanton, Kansas, which is another kind of, basically the stablest part of my school was when I...
This call is from a correctional facility and may be monitored and recorded.
I went to prison for a little while, and I went down there to live with her sister.
Did you say you went to prison for a little while?
My mother did, yeah.
Oh, okay.
In his early years, Brandon fell victim to a broken home with an absent father. His mother's struggles with drug and alcohol addiction added to his unstable childhood and disrupted schooling. After his mother ended up in prison, Brandon was sent to live with one of his aunts in Pleasanton, Kansas, where for the first time, he joined a stable family. He began to excel in school and sports, spending his high school years in a structured, nearly drug-free environment. His aunt thankfully never followed in her sister's footsteps, and Brandon was able to step through most of his high school career in a household that prioritized education and well-being over drugs and parties. Unfortunately, as he grew older, his rebellious nature intensified, and his relationship with his aunt began to sour. In his sophomore year, they began knocking heads over drug use in the house, and Brandon's need for freedom drove them apart. At the time, his mother had been released from prison, and Brandon was sent back to finish his sophomore year with her. Though unconventional, his relationship with his mother had a deep impact on his life. Though she struggled to stay sober, she remained a powerful emotional influence on him, a bond that ultimately contributed to his downfall.
What kind of person were you in high school, growing up?
Well, I would say, from my mother's growing up and from my mother's household was kind of wild and crazy and things like that. But as I went to live with my aunt in Pleasanton, Kansas, and grew up kind of in high school there, there was no drugs in the house with her. She didn't use drugs. My uncle didn't. So like I went from like 6th, 7th, 8th, and like my 9th freshman year I was going to start. I moved back to Kansas City because we had got into it. But when I lived with her, it was actually really structured. I played a lot of sports in high school, and I was really pretty a good kid, you know.
Yeah.
So,
What'd you do when you got out of high school?
well, me and her had got into it my sophomore year because she told me that she didn't want no drugs in the house. And my mom was out of prison by that time back in Kansas City. So I said, I'm just going to go live with my mom. And I did it. Basically, I could do whatever I wanted when I went up there. So I didn't go back to school.
What did your mom go to prison for?
Selling weed.
Really?
Yeah.
What year was that?
It was, I wouldn't even know. This was years, maybe in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like maybe
Was it like a lot of weight or just?
Yeah, it was supposedly pounds. I was kind of younger then, too. I might have been like 12 or 13 at the time, I'm thinking. So I heard it was pounds, and my brother, like kind of like my older brother, was running around with her and stuff like that. And
It's
that's what I was told anyway.
It's crazy how times change. I wouldn't imagine somebody doing. I mean, I don't know if it was a truckload, I guess, but now marijuana is legal in Missouri, so it'd be a different story. I'm pretty sure.
Well, she just basically did like a 120, but I had stayed down there with my aunt several years after that, just because I liked the school. I had friends. I'm stable, and I kind of liked it, for a little bit. But then as I got older, I kind of wanted, I got more rebellious, kind of wanted to do what I wanted. I know I could do that. Like I said, when I lived with my mother, and I don't know.
Yeah. So what did you say you did when you got out of high school?
Basically, well, I went back to the city. And I ran around with a bunch of neighborhood kids around my neighborhood, caught some felonies, went to DYS.
What were the felonies?
It was like assault on a guy that was staying in my buddy's house. It was still sleeping with our mom or something, and my buddy had got into it with him, so we all did hurt him and stuff.
Were you a tough guy back then?
What?
Were you a tough guy back then?
Not really. I mean, I just kind of ran with my buddies, you know what I mean? Like I was just with them. What we were doing, I was doing. I mean, I actually, like I said, it was kind of night and day from the guy I was down there living with my aunt and going to the country and kind of playing sports to up there and involved in all that crap.
The felonies Brandon picked up during his rebellious phase didn't seem like a big deal to him at the time. The drug use, the violence, and the general trouble he got into around the neighborhood all felt insignificant. He did what he wanted when he wanted. According to Brandon, though, he didn't see himself as a violent person. Even in prison, he tries to avoid fights, only getting involved when absolutely necessary. His life, up until his arrest, seemed largely shaped by the people around him. From his mother and older brothers to the kids in the neighborhood, his actions were often influenced by the company he kept. If we look back at his time with his aunt, her stability had been a good influence on him. But when that was taken away, his rebellion took over, and for that, Brandon had no one to blame but himself. As the years went by, his life seemed more guided by convenience than ambition. One example of this was his relationship with his ex-girlfriend, the woman who would later become the victim's girlfriend. They met through Brandon's cousin, Michael Brown, but had close ties through one of his kids' mothers, who had gone to school with her. Brandon was father to 3 kids, but it appears that none were living with him at the time. We'll find out more about that situation after the break.
So the victim's girlfriend, which would be your ex-girlfriend, when did you meet her?
Well, she was basically part of the family almost. I mean, she had been with my other cousin, Michael Brown, which got killed or whatever, and she had been with him for years. And then her and my kids' mother had also went to school together. So she was living. Basically, she was living with my kids because my kids had got taken years ago, and they had lived with. Basically, it's my baby mother's aunt.
So before her, you had kids?
Yeah.
Okay.
Her, I had kids. Yeah.
So you started seeing somebody that you kind of knew from way back, basically?
Yeah, she was around the family, been in the family for years. And that's what kind of started is I went around kind of asking her about what happened with my cousin because he got killed and she was with him. And, well, not at the time, or yeah, I guess she was with him at the time. And I kind of just a friend, like I said, we would hang out and drink and stuff like that. So,
yeah. So how did it develop into something more than friends, or did you actually become girlfriend, boyfriend?
Well, I mean, it did for a little while. Thing about it was, like, I would go to her house over there, and it was in the Northeast or whatever, actually the house that this stuff happened at, but I would go over there and hang out, and she didn't have no lights and nothing over there really at all. And, so eventually I would go over there after work a lot and just hang out, and she said eventually, she was like, why do you always come over here when you have a house you live in, which is basically with my mother and them when she was still alive, that had lights and food and all that. So she was like, well, why don't I just come stay with you? So eventually that's what she did, and we kind of started seeing each other for a little bit. Like I said, it was kind of, we did. She moved in and stuff, and we kind of was together. And then, I don't know, I kind of, like I said, we were in a relationship and then kind of after my mom passed, I kind of, I pretty much ended it after that because I was in a pretty messed up state of mind after that,
So did you ended it with this girl and then she found somebody and you basically turned back to her? Is that kind of the case?
Well, so what happened was she had moved out. I told her to get out the night that I came home from like my mom's thing and stuff. I was pretty, like I said, I was tore up, and I just told her to leave, and she ended up leaving, got her stuff, and then we had text back and forth a few times because she said something about she needed some license plates. So I put them outside. I don't know if her friend stole them. She came to get them, and she said she never got them or whatever. So we kind of text back and forth. And then I even texted her a few times to ask her if she'd see me or whatever, like, hey, are you busy or whatever? And she said she didn't want to see me because she was hurt or whatever over the situation. And I was like, okay. But we had texted, too, a couple of times, but it wasn't like every day all the time. And she had said something about one day a boyfriend stole her car and some money and stuff. And I said, oh, okay. And she had told me what description. Kind of. So it was just here and there every once in a great while. It wasn't like every day and all the time. I think, like I said, she was pretty upset about the whole when I broke it off thing, but I mean, like I said, I was pretty upset about my mother dying.
So just to let you know, it seems like the news kind of points to where you're an angry ex-boyfriend going to talk to her, and is that the case?
Not the case. No, not at all.
So
like we weren't together at all. I was seeing like other people and all that. Like
sure, I mean, but you can be.
This call is from a correctional facility and may be monitored and recorded.
A guy can be, jealous, even though he doesn't have a woman, can be with somebody else.
And another thing about the whole situation was this guy supposedly that they said I was jealous and I was seeing this and that. I didn't even know she was with anybody else, and I didn't know like that's the whole point. Like if I felt like I was intruding in something, like even going over there.
Well,
I would never win. You know what I mean? Like I'm
sure.
not that.
In the next episode of Voices of a Killer, we look into the steps leading up to Michael Utley's death and the misleading facts that ultimately made their way into the courtroom and sealed Brandon's fate. If you want to find out what happens next, right now, you can sign up at patreon.com/voicesofakiller. There you can find bonus content, early access, ad-free listening, and access to our chat community. So go to patreon.com/voicesofakiller to sign up now. Your support is what keeps us passionate about bringing these stories to you. That's a wrap on this episode of Voices of a Killer. A big shout out to Sonic Futures, who handled the production, audio editing, music licensing, and promotion of this podcast. If you want to hear more episodes like this one, make sure to visit our website at voicesofakiller.com. There you can find previous episodes, transcripts, and additional information about the podcast. Lastly, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Your feedback helps us improve and reach new listeners. Thank you for your support, and we can't wait to share more stories with you in the future. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Toby, and we'll see you next time on Voices of a Killer.